Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Tonight, we leave behind the noise of the modern world and journey back to the peaceful countryside of medieval Ireland. There are no great battles to witness, no kings to follow, and no kingdoms to conquer. Instead, we will spend a single ordinary day among quiet villages, emerald hills, warm hearths, and kind neighbors. Together, we'll watch the sun rise over thatched cottages, walk through bustling village markets, visit peaceful monasteries, share simple meals beside glowing fires, and finally rest beneath a sky filled with countless stars. So, find a comfortable place to relax, let your thoughts slow with the gentle rhythm of history, and allow yourself to drift into a quieter time. Our peaceful day in medieval Ireland is about to begin. Good evening, and welcome. Tonight, we leave behind the noise of the modern world and travel to the green landscapes of medieval Ireland. There are no crowded streets, no rushing clocks, and no endless lists of tasks waiting to be completed. Instead, there are rolling hills wrapped in morning mist, narrow paths worn smooth by countless footsteps, and small villages where each day begins with the rising of the sun rather than the ringing of a bell. As always, you are invited to settle into a comfortable position. Let your breathing become slow and natural. There is nowhere else you need to be. The day ahead belongs not to you, but to the people of another age, whose quiet routines have long since faded into history. Our journey begins before sunrise. The sky above Ireland is still painted in deep shades of blue, almost black, with only the faintest silver line resting upon the eastern horizon. During the night, a cool breeze drifted gently across the fields, carrying with it the scent of damp grass, wildflowers, and the nearby woods. Tiny drops of dew cling to every blade of grass, sparkling softly whenever the first hint of light touches them. The village still sleeps. It is a small settlement, home to perhaps 30 or 40 families. The houses are scattered rather than arranged in neat rows. Each stands where generations before found firm ground or convenient shelter from the wind. The roofs are thick with bundles of straw and reeds, carefully tied together to keep out the rain that visits this land so often. Thin wisps of smoke no longer rise from the hearths. The fires burned low during the night, leaving only glowing embers beneath a blanket of ash. Inside every cottage, families sleep closely together beneath wool blankets and animal skins, protected from the cool air that slips quietly through tiny cracks in wooden walls. Outside, the world remains wonderfully still. The warmth of the morning grows almost unnoticed. It does not arrive all at once, nor does it chase away the cool air completely. Instead, it settles gently across the countryside, touching the rooftops, the stone walls, and the open fields with quiet patience. Tiny clouds of mist still linger in the lower valleys, drifting lazily above streams and marshes before slowly disappearing beneath the strengthening sunlight. For the villagers, this peaceful transition from night to day is one they have witnessed countless times. Yet no two mornings are ever exactly alike. Some begin beneath heavy rain, others beneath thick fog rolling inland from the sea. Today, however, promises calm weather, and that simple gift shapes nearly every decision the villagers will make before sunset. Near one of the cottages, a young boy carefully lifts a wooden pail. It is almost as tall as his knees, and carrying it requires both hands. The nearby well lies only a short walk away, but the narrow path is uneven, worn by generations of footsteps. Grass grows between the stones, and small wildflowers bloom wherever they find enough sunlight. As he walks, he is joined by his older sister. She carries a larger bucket with practiced ease, balancing its weight naturally as though she has performed the same journey every morning for years. In truth, she has. Water is among the day's first necessities. Without it, there can be no porridge cooking over the fire, no washing of wooden bowls, no watering of animals, and no brewing of simple herbal drinks. Every household depends upon fresh water collected daily, making the short journey to the well one of the most familiar routines in village life. The well itself is modest. Unlike the grand stone wells found in larger towns centuries later, this one is surrounded by rough-cut timber strengthened with carefully stacked stones. Moss clings to the shaded side, while climbing ivy slowly reaches upward toward the morning light. By now, the morning has settled comfortably over the village. The last traces of mist have lifted from the meadows, revealing fields that seem to stretch endlessly beneath the gentle light of the Irish sky. Every blade of grass glistens for a few final moments before the warmth of the sun dries the morning dew. The air remains cool enough to feel refreshing, yet warm enough that no one worries about frost or rain. It is a welcome beginning to the day. Across medieval Ireland, mornings like this are treasured not because they are extraordinary, but because they are dependable. They remind people that life often moves forward through small routines rather than great events. A narrow path leads away from the village toward open pastureland. Its surface is uneven, shaped by centuries of footsteps from farmers, shepherds, travelers, monks, and merchants. Tiny wildflowers grow along its edges, untouched by carts or animals. Bees drift lazily between blossoms while dragonflies skim above damp patches left by the night's moisture. A young farmer walks this familiar path carrying a wooden rake across his shoulder. He is in no hurry. His destination is not far, and there is little reason to rush. The fields will wait for him exactly as they did yesterday. Nature follows its own rhythm, asking only patience from those who depend upon it. As he reaches the pasture, he pauses. Before beginning any work, he simply looks. The grass appears healthy. The fences remain standing. The cattle have rested peacefully. Small observations like these require only moments, yet they reveal everything he needs to know before the day's labor begins. His cattle slowly lift their heads as he approaches. Some continue grazing without concern. Others wander closer, recognizing the familiar figure who has cared for them through every season. Unlike modern farms filled with machinery, nearly every task here depends upon human hands. Each animal is known individually. The sun has now risen fully above the gentle hills of medieval Ireland. Its warm light stretches slowly across the valley, illuminating the fields that surround the village. The cool air of dawn has not entirely disappeared, but it has softened into a pleasant freshness that makes the coming day's work feel inviting rather than burdensome. The village has been awake for some time. Breakfast has been shared, the fires have been tended, and the first quiet conversations of the morning have already taken place. Now, almost without a spoken signal, everyone begins moving toward their daily responsibilities. There is no village bell announcing the beginning of work. No overseer giving instructions. No written schedule hanging upon a wall. Instead, every person understands what the day requires because yesterday required much the same, and tomorrow will likely ask for similar care. Routine is not viewed as dull. It is reassuring. It offers stability in a world where the weather, the harvest, and the seasons often determine far more than any ruler ever could. The narrow footpaths leading away from the cottages begin to fill with gentle movement. A farmer carries a wooden hoe across his shoulder. Another pushes a small handcart filled with woven baskets and simple tools. A young girl walks beside her mother carrying a bundle of flax tied neatly with twine. Two brothers lead a pair of sturdy oxen toward an open field, speaking only occasionally, allowing the peaceful sounds of birdsong to fill the spaces between their words. Nothing feels hurried. The work is important, but there is wisdom in beginning steadily rather than rushing. Across the countryside, fields of oats ripple softly beneath the light breeze. Oats are among the most dependable crops in Ireland's cool and damp climate. Unlike wheat, which prefers warmer conditions, oats thrive beneath frequent rain and moderate temperatures. The morning continues to unfold with quiet purpose. The sun has climbed a little higher into the wide Irish sky, spreading a soft golden light across every corner of the valley. Shadows have become shorter now, though they still stretch gently from ancient stone walls and the trunks of old oak trees. The air remains wonderfully fresh, carrying with it the sense of damp earth, growing grain, wildflowers, and wood smoke drifting from the last breakfast fires. The village no longer feels as though it has just awakened. Instead, it has settled into its familiar rhythm. From a distance, there is no single sound that dominates the countryside. Rather, many gentle sounds weave together into one peaceful melody. The distant bleating of sheep. The steady tapping of a carpenter's hammer. Birdsong drifting across open fields. The creak of wooden cart wheels turning slowly along narrow paths. The soft murmur of voices carried by the breeze. Even silence has its own place between these sounds, allowing each one to fade naturally before another quietly takes its place. Near the western edge of the village, two brothers are repairing one of the old pasture fences. The fence has served their family faithfully for many years. Its sturdy oak posts remain strong, but several hazel rails have begun to bend after surviving countless seasons of wind and rain. Rather than waiting for greater damage, they choose to repair it while the morning remains calm. One brother removes the weathered rails. The other carefully measures new pieces that were cut during the previous winter and left to season beneath shelter. Every movement is unhurried. There is no need for haste. A fence built carefully today may stand for many years to come. The younger brother pauses for a moment and looks across the pasture. Several cows graze peacefully among patches of tall grass, their tails moving lazily to brush away flies. The morning has now matured into the quiet confidence of late morning. The soft light that greeted the village at dawn has become brighter, though it never loses its gentle quality beneath the ever-changing Irish sky. White clouds drift lazily overhead, casting broad patches of moving shade that travel slowly across the fields, the forests, and the winding streams below. There is a comforting steadiness to the day. No sudden events interrupt its rhythm. Instead, Each task blends naturally into the next, just as every season follows the one before it. The villagers have long understood that life is built not from extraordinary moments, but from ordinary ones repeated with care. In one of the larger pastures, several families have gathered to move a small herd of cattle toward fresh grazing land. This is not difficult work, but it requires patience and quiet cooperation. The animals know the familiar paths between the fields. Many have walked these same routes since they were calves. Leading them gently is far easier than forcing them. One farmer walks ahead carrying a simple hazel staff polished smooth by years of use. Another remains behind the herd, ensuring that none wander toward the nearby woodland. Children walk alongside their parents, learning not through formal instruction but through careful observation. A young boy notices that one of the cows has stopped beside a patch of particularly rich grass. His father smiles. "There is no need to hurry her," he says softly. "The field will still be waiting." The lesson extends beyond the animal itself. Patience often accomplishes what impatience never can. As the herd reaches its new pasture, the wooden gate is opened slowly. The cattle enter almost immediately, spreading naturally across the wide meadow. Some lower their heads to graze. Others wander toward the shade of an ancient ash tree whose branches have sheltered generations of animals during warm summer days. The sound of the monastery bell lingers in the air long after its final note has faded. It is neither loud nor commanding. Rather, it drifts gently across the green valleys, carried by the cool breeze that moves through the oak forests and over the winding streams. For the villagers, the bell is a familiar companion. It marks no urgent occasion, nor does it interrupt the peaceful rhythm of their work. Instead, it serves as a quiet reminder that beyond the fields and cottages lies another community, one whose days are devoted not only to labor, but also to prayer, learning, and the careful preservation of knowledge. From the edge of the village, a narrow path winds toward the distant monastery. The trail is old. Long before the people living in the village today were born, countless travelers had already walked this same route. Farmers carrying baskets of grain. Shepherds seeking the blessing of a local priest. Families attending feast days. Pilgrims traveling between sacred sites. Monks journeying to neighboring communities with carefully wrapped manuscripts tucked safely inside leather satchels. Each pair of footsteps has left its quiet mark upon the earth. The path itself seems almost alive with memory. It curves gently through open meadows before disappearing beneath the shade of ancient trees. Moss-covered stones line its edges, while clusters of foxgloves and wildflowers sway softly whenever the wind passes through the valley. The morning sun filters through the branches above. Small patches of golden light dance upon the ground. A robin lands briefly on a low stone wall before taking flight once more. Somewhere deeper within the woodland, a wood pigeon calls with its slow and familiar rhythm, its voice echoing peacefully among the trees. There is no hurry along this road. Those who walk it understand that the journey itself is part of the day. As the forest gradually begins to thin, the monastery slowly comes into view. As the morning quietly advances, the scriptorium settles into a peaceful rhythm that has changed little over generations. Sunlight streams gently through the narrow windows, illuminating long wooden desks where monks continue their careful work. Dust motes drift lazily through the beams of light, rising and falling almost imperceptibly with every small movement in the room. No one speaks. There is no need. The silence is not uncomfortable, nor is it imposed with harsh discipline. It is simply understood that quiet allows both the mind and the heart to focus upon the task at hand. Each monk works at his own pace. One carefully copies a page of scripture. Another is adding decorative initials to a gospel manuscript, surrounding each letter with graceful vines, tiny birds, and delicate knotwork inspired by the natural beauty of Ireland. A third studies an older manuscript whose pages have become worn from many decades of careful reading. Every book is precious. In the medieval world, a single manuscript may require months or even years to complete. Unlike a modern printed book, no machine can produce dozens of copies within a day. Every page is written by hand. Every line demands patience. Every illustration is painted with remarkable care. For this reason, books are treated with deep respect. They are wrapped in protective leather coverings, stored safely in wooden chests, handled only with clean hands. To lose a manuscript to fire or dampness would mean losing countless hours of devoted labor and, perhaps, knowledge that could never be replaced. One elderly monk pauses for a moment before dipping his quill into a small clay pot filled with dark ink. The ink itself has been carefully prepared within the monastery. Oak galls gathered from nearby forests have been mixed with iron salts and natural binders to create a rich black color capable of lasting for centuries. Beside him rests a tiny knife. By the time the sun has climbed toward the middle of the sky, the monastery has settled into the quiet confidence of another ordinary day. There is no sense of excitement or urgency within its stone walls. Instead, every corner of the monastery seems to breathe with gentle purpose. The rhythm established during the early morning continues without interruption, as though each hour naturally flows into the next like the steady waters of a nearby stream. The monks have long understood that true learning is rarely hurried. Wisdom, much like the great oak trees surrounding the valley, grows slowly. Its strongest roots are hidden beneath the surface, developing patiently over many years before anyone notices the branches reaching toward the light. For this reason, time itself is viewed differently within the monastery. Each task deserves complete attention. Each page deserves careful handwriting. Each conversation deserves thoughtful listening. Each prayer deserves silence before and after the spoken words. One of the senior monks walks slowly along the covered stone walkway that surrounds the central courtyard. His footsteps are soft against the worn flagstones, polished smooth by generations of sandals passing over them. As he walks, he pauses occasionally to observe the younger novices at their work. One novice is carefully sweeping fallen leaves that have gathered beneath the arches. Another is polishing a brass candle holder until it catches the sunlight. A third carries freshly baked loaves from the kitchen toward the refectory where the community will soon gather for their midday meal. No task appears more important than another. The monastery teaches that dignity belongs to every honest form of work. Cleaning a floor, copying a manuscript, planting herbs, welcoming a traveler. All are seen as acts of quiet service. The older monk smiles gently. The marketplace has slowly faded into memory. Its cheerful conversations, gentle melodies, and the quiet laughter of children now linger only as pleasant echoes carried upon the afternoon breeze. The wide meadow, so recently alive with neighbors exchanging goods and stories, gradually returns to its usual peaceful stillness. Only a few footprints remain pressed into the soft grass. A forgotten feather drifts lazily across the ground. The nearby stream continues its endless journey toward distant rivers, flowing just as it did before the market began. Families now follow the familiar paths leading home. The narrow lanes wind gently between moss-covered stone walls and fields glowing beneath the warm afternoon sun. Every traveler carries something home from the gathering. One farmer balances a newly repaired hoe across his shoulder. A young mother carefully cradles a basket filled with oat bread, fresh butter, and a small pot of golden honey. An elderly couple carries bundles of herbs tied neatly with flax cord, their pleasant fragrance escaping into the breeze with every step. Children walk happily beside their parents. Some chatter excitedly about the stories they heard beneath the great oak tree. Others proudly carry tiny treasures gathered throughout the day, a smooth river stone, a carved wooden whistle, or a woven bracelet exchanged with a new friend. For them, the marketplace has been an adventure. For their parents, it has been another quiet thread woven into the fabric of ordinary life. The road home passes through familiar countryside. Sheep graze peacefully upon the hillsides. Cattle rest beneath spreading ash trees where patches of cool shade offer relief from the gentle warmth of the afternoon. Wildflowers continue to sway beside the path. Purple foxgloves stand tall among the grasses. Clusters of daisies brighten the edges of narrow trails. As the afternoon gently begins its slow journey toward evening, a peaceful stillness settles over the village. The fields that had echoed softly with the sounds of work throughout the morning now grow quieter. Wooden tools are carefully placed beneath sheltered porches. Oxen and cattle wander lazily toward familiar pastures, while sheep gather naturally near their stone enclosures. The day's labor has not truly ended, but it has reached a comfortable pause. Warm golden light stretches across the emerald landscape. Long shadows drift slowly from ancient oak trees, stone walls, and thatched cottages, giving everything a softer appearance. A cool breeze moves through the village, carrying with it the comforting sense of fresh bread, peat smoke, wild herbs, and the nearby woodland. It is the kind of afternoon that invites people to linger a little longer outdoors before returning fully to the warmth of home. Near one cottage, several children sit together on smooth stones arranged around a small patch of grass. Earlier in the day they had visited the marketplace. Now they eagerly compare the little treasures they brought home. One proudly holds a tiny wooden whistle carved into the shape of a bird. Another has gathered polished river stones whose smooth surfaces shine in the sunlight. A little girl carefully unwraps a narrow woven bracelet made from dyed wool. Though simple, each object carries a memory. The children happily exchange stories about the friendly craftspeople they met and the traveling bard whose gentle tales had captured everyone's imagination. Their laughter rises softly into the calm afternoon air. Nearby, an elderly grandmother sits comfortably outside her cottage with a basket resting beside her feet. Inside are balls of freshly spun wool in gentle shades of cream, brown, and soft green. Her hands move almost effortlessly as she knits a thick woolen stocking using smooth wooden needles polished by decades of use. As the evening draws ever closer, a quiet sense of contentment settles over the village. The warmth of the day has begun to soften, and the golden sunlight now rests low above the western hills. Long shadows stretch across narrow footpaths, weaving between cottages, gardens, and ancient stone walls that have watched over countless generations. The air grows cooler, carrying the pleasant scent of peat fires, fresh bread, and damp earth after another peaceful summer day. Inside the cottages, the evening meal has reached its gentle conclusion. Wooden bowls that only a short while ago held steaming barley broth now sit nearly empty upon sturdy oak tables. A few crumbs of oat bread remain beside small dishes of butter and soft farmhouse cheese. Clay cups still hold the warmth of herbal infusions prepared from mint, chamomile, and meadowsweet gathered in nearby gardens. No one rises from the table in haste. There is no urgency to return to work. The busiest hours of the day are behind them, and the quiet moments that follow are valued just as highly as the labor that came before. Families remain seated together. The fire continues its gentle crackling inside the stone hearth, casting warm amber light across wooden beams darkened by many years of smoke. Shadows dance softly upon the walls, giving the simple room an almost timeless appearance. An elderly grandfather leans comfortably upon his carved wooden chair while one of his grandchildren climbs onto a small stool beside him. The child asks whether life had always been this peaceful. The old man smiles. He gazes thoughtfully into the glowing embers before answering. Every season brings its own work, he says quietly. Some years are easier than others. There are harsh winters and generous harvests. But the hearth has always welcomed us home. The child listens carefully. The answer is simple, yet comforting. Home is not free from hardship. The monastery bell has long since fallen silent. Beyond its ancient stone walls, the peaceful rhythm of the day continues to spread across the Irish countryside. The sun now hangs comfortably above the rolling green hills, bathing the valleys in warm light while a gentle breeze carries the scent of fresh grass, wildflowers, and distant wood smoke across the landscape. For many villagers, the morning's work has reached a natural pause. The fields have been inspected. The livestock have been watered. The gardens have been carefully tended. Now, on this particular day, a different destination awaits. A small market has begun to gather a short walk from the village, where neighboring communities come together not only to exchange goods but also to exchange stories, greetings, and news carried across the countryside. The path leading toward the marketplace feels pleasantly familiar. It winds between low stone walls built generations ago, crossing shallow streams over simple wooden bridges before opening into a broad meadow where traders have quietly assembled since the earliest hours of the morning. There is nothing grand about this market. No towering buildings. No bustling crowds. No shouting merchants competing for attention. Instead, everything unfolds with remarkable calm. People arrive steadily, greeting one another with warm smiles and quiet voices. Many of them have met countless times before. Some are distant cousins. Others became friends many harvests ago. Children who once played together beneath these same oak trees now arrive with families of their own. The market serves many purposes. Buying and selling are certainly among them. Yet perhaps even more important is the opportunity to remain connected. In a world without newspapers or swift communication, gatherings like this allow news to travel naturally from valley to valley. As one approaches the open meadow, small groups of thatched stalls come into view. As the afternoon settles gently over the marketplace, the pace of life remains wonderfully unhurried. The sun shines warmly above the rolling hills, but a pleasant breeze drifts through the meadow, carrying with it the fragrance of fresh grass, wild thyme, and distant pine forests. Above, white clouds move lazily across the blue Irish sky, their slow shadows gliding over fields, cottages, and the small gathering of market stalls below. No one seems concerned with the passing of time. There are no clocks to watch, no appointments to hurry toward. The rhythm of the day is measured instead by the movement of the sun, the length of shadows upon the ground, and the quiet understanding that every conversation should be allowed to finish naturally. Near one of the market's largest oak trees, several farmers have gathered in a loose circle. Each has brought something small to exchange. One man carries several carefully wrapped wheels of cheese. Another has filled woven sacks with oats harvested from the previous season. A woman arrives with fresh butter stored safely inside cool clay pots lined with damp cloth. Another family offers smooth beeswax candles made from honey gathered throughout the summer. Their discussions are friendly rather than competitive. There is little bargaining. Most people already know one another. They understand the effort required to produce every loaf of bread, every length of cloth, every wooden bowl resting upon the tables before them. Fairness matters far more than profit. One elderly farmer gently examines a newly carved wooden rake displayed by a young craftsman. Running his weathered hands across the smooth ash handle, he nods with quiet approval. The balance feels right. The wood has been seasoned properly. The iron teeth have been fitted securely. Without speaking immediately, he simply smiles. The young craftsman smiles in return. Sometimes approval needs very few words. The bard's final notes linger softly beneath the wide branches of the ancient oak. For a few quiet moments, no one speaks. The gentle melody seems to settle into the afternoon air, blending naturally with the rustling leaves, the distant songs of blackbirds, and the soft murmur of the nearby stream. The silence that follows is not empty. It is filled with quiet reflection, as though each listener carries away a small piece of the story within their own thoughts. Gradually, conversations begin again. They return almost effortlessly, like the gentle flow of water finding its familiar course after passing around smooth stones. A farmer remarks upon a favorite moment from the tale. An elderly woman remembers hearing a similar story from her grandmother many decades earlier. A young child excitedly attempts to retell part of the adventure, adding a few imaginative details of his own. No one corrects him. Stories have always grown a little with each telling. They change gently from one generation to the next, while their heart remains unchanged. The bard smiles quietly as he listens. He understands that his work is not finished when the final note is played. A story truly begins its longest journey after it has been shared. Soon it will travel into cottages, across fields, and along narrow woodland paths, carried not by parchment but by memory. Nearby, another storyteller has gathered a smaller circle of listeners. Unlike the traveling bard, she carries no instrument. Her greatest gift is her voice. Calm and measured, she speaks of familiar places scattered across the Irish countryside. She tells of quiet lakes hidden among misty hills, of ancient standing stones weathered by countless winters, of old oak trees beneath whose branches generations have rested during long journeys. Whether every detail is entirely true hardly concerns those who listen. These stories help people feel connected to the land itself. The afternoon slowly begins to surrender to evening. Across the rolling green hills of medieval Ireland, the sunlight grows softer with every passing moment. The brilliant blue sky that had stretched above the countryside throughout the day now begins to welcome warmer shades of gold, amber, and pale rose. The land itself seems to breathe more slowly, as if preparing to rest after another quiet day lived in harmony with nature. The village, which only hours before had echoed gently with the sounds of daily work, gradually settles into a peaceful calm. Fields that had been busy with careful hands now stand silent beneath the lengthening shadows. Gardens rest quietly after being tended with patience. The marketplace has long since disappeared, leaving behind only pleasant memories carried home by every family. The monastery bell, heard faintly across the valley, marks another passing hour with its familiar, comforting tone. Its sound drifts over rivers, forests, cottages, and open meadows before fading gently into the cool evening air. There is no feeling of sadness in the coming night. Instead, evening is welcomed as naturally as morning. Every part of the day has its purpose. Morning brings hope. Afternoon brings work. Evening offers gratitude and rest. High upon a gentle hillside, a shepherd watches over the last of his flock. The sheep move slowly through the fading sunlight, their thick wool glowing softly beneath the golden sky. Tiny lambs remain close to their mothers, occasionally pausing to nibble at the sweet summer grass before hurrying to catch up once more. The shepherd carries a smooth hazel staff polished by many years of use. His faithful sheepdog walks quietly beside him, needing very few commands. Both know the familiar path home. Stone walls, carefully built by generations before them, guide the flock toward the safety of their enclosure. The routine changes little from one evening to the next. The final glow of sunset lingers quietly upon the western horizon. For a little while longer, the hills hold the last traces of golden light, as though reluctant to let the day disappear completely. The valleys below are already beginning to soften into shades of blue and green, while the highest slopes still catch the fading brilliance of the evening sun. Across medieval Ireland, another ordinary day gently comes to its close. The countryside no longer hums with the sounds of work. Instead, it welcomes the peaceful music of approaching night. The streams continue flowing through fields and forests with their familiar, gentle murmur. Crickets begin their evening songs among the grasses. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls softly from the branches of an ancient oak, announcing that darkness is slowly taking its place beneath the wide Irish sky. In the village, the cottages glow with warm light. Small windows shine like quiet lanterns scattered across the hillside. Behind each one, families continue the peaceful routines that have marked countless evenings before this one. Some sit together around the hearth. Others quietly finish simple tasks before preparing for sleep. There is no rush. No loud voices. Only the comforting rhythm of ordinary life. Inside one cottage, a mother carefully hangs a heavy iron cooking pot above a wooden hook to cool after the evening meal. The last warmth of the soup still lingers inside. Nearby, wooden spoons dry upon a folded linen cloth while clay cups are arranged neatly upon a rough oak shelf. Everything has its proper place. The careful order of the home brings its own quiet sense of peace. Her youngest daughter kneels beside the fire, gently adding another small piece of peat to the glowing embers. The flames brighten for a moment before settling once again into a steady, comforting glow. She smiles as tiny sparks rise toward the chimney. Night has now fully embraced the Irish countryside. The last traces of daylight have disappeared beyond the western hills, leaving behind a sky filled with countless stars that shimmer quietly above the ancient landscape. The valleys rest beneath a gentle veil of darkness, while rivers reflect silver ribbons of moonlight as they continue their timeless journey toward the distant sea. The village sleeps peacefully. From above, the cottages appear like tiny islands of warmth scattered among the rolling hills. Here and there, a faint orange glow still escapes through the smallest windows, where the last embers continue to burn inside stone hearths. Soon even those gentle lights will fade, leaving only the quiet company of the moon and the stars. The air has grown cool. A soft breeze wanders through the valley, moving carefully between ancient oak trees whose branches sway almost silently against the night sky. Their leaves whisper together with a voice so gentle that it seems less like sound and more like memory. Somewhere nearby, a stream continues its peaceful song. The water never hurries. It flows around smooth stones exactly as it did yesterday, exactly as it will tomorrow, and exactly as it has for countless generations before. No one hears every note of its quiet melody tonight. Yet somehow its presence comforts the entire valley. It reminds the sleeping countryside that some things remain wonderfully constant. Beyond the cottages, fields lie beneath a blanket of silver moonlight. The barley sways gently whenever the breeze passes through. Wild flowers close their delicate petals until morning returns. Tiny droplets of dew begin forming upon blades of grass, catching the moonlight like scattered pearls. The stone walls crossing the hills seem almost to glow beneath the pale light. Built by patient hands long ago, they continue standing watch over the land, asking for nothing in return. Within the barns, the animals rest quietly.